Live. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. I'm Trailer Trash Tim, and this is
Marina.
a happy Monday to you. I'm glad you've joined us. I didn't get a chance last week, so I'll take a chance now, although it's a little late, to wish all of you a happy Easter that celebrated yesterday. And this is going to tie into something else I want to talk about. Marina and I are still in the season of Lent. We follow the older calendar, the Julian calendar. In the Orthodox Church, our Easter or Pascha isn't until like the first Sunday in May. So we've still got quite a journey to go. But if you celebrated Easter yesterday, I hope you had a joyous day. And those are my thoughts on that. But we're still in Lent. And one reason I bring that up is because I'm sure that a lot of you have heard by now that last week the occupant of the White House, you would traditionally expect the President of the United States prior to the Easter holiday to issue some sort of statement to acknowledge what is the highest holy day in Christendom. But instead, Biden threw us yet another curveball, and he issued a proclamation. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I have read it, but I'm sure many of you have heard that Joe Biden, what is today, the 31st of March, I believe, or yesterday, Sunday was the 31st of March?
Yeah.
Joe Biden issued an official proclamation declaring March 31st, not Easter Sunday, but the Transgender Day of Visibility.
Like you can't see them?
Yeah, I'm thinking, is there a more visible? Is there a more visible group in America right now than transgenders?
I don't think so.
And I don't know how much of the population they comprise. It can't be that much. And I also don't understand why they need a quote unquote day of visibility. But this is just, to me, beyond reprehensible that you would issue a proclamation like this on any day. But this man waits until it is time for the highest holy day in Christendom to issue his proclamation.
Right.
Is this nothing but an absolute poke in the eye to Christians everywhere?
Well, exactly it is. And he, being the good Catholic that he is, knows better.
Of course he does, but that doesn't seem to matter, of course. But it kind of leads me into what I want to talk about, because I really want to cut to the chase, get to the nub of the matter of what is happening in America and what is happening in the West, because it is so clearly evident. It is right here in front of us. And I want to tell you all that are watching right now, no matter if you are a Christian or not, no matter if you're a religious person or not, you may be agnostic, you may be atheist, but I'm going to tell you a truth that I don't believe anybody can deny. What is really ultimately happening in the West is there is an absolute full frontal war against Christians. It's as simple as that. When you blow away all the smoke, that's what's happening. And what's happened here with this proclamation of this degenerate in the White House, this is just basically taking the gloves off. I mean, if there is a way that you could
spit on
and insult Christians, then use their highest holy day to issue a proclamation for transgender visibility, I don't know what it would be.
It's disgusting.
This good Roman Catholic president. And of course, not to get too deep in the weeds here, but I don't expect any kind of a smackdown from the current Pope of the Roman Catholic Church.
No.
Who may applaud this for all I know. But folks, if you are a Christian, particularly, if you're a religious person, if you're a moral person, if you are agnostic, but you still esteem the Ten Commandments, for example, this is an absolute insult to you. It is an absolute poke in the eye. This was not only unnecessary, this Transgender Day of Visibility, it is nothing but an insult.
I agree.
It's a slap in the face. It's a spit in the face. This man is an absolute moral degenerate as far as I'm concerned, and I've got more evidence of that coming up. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you pretty well covered it.
Okay, let me move on. There was a man, and many of you have heard about this, a man by the name of Jonathan Diller. Jonathan Diller was 31 years old. He was a police officer with the New York Police Department, New York City Police Department. And last week, he was involved in a traffic stop in New York where he pulled over a man by the name of Guy Rivera. It was just a routine traffic stop, and Officer Diller pulled Guy Rivera over. And during the stop, Guy Rivera brandished a firearm, and he shot Officer Diller in the abdomen beneath his protective vest, and wounded him. And he collapsed, of course. But before he collapsed, he continued, even after being shot, trying to apprehend Guy Rivera, who was ultimately shot himself by Officer Diller's partner, but he survived the gunshots. Officer Diller was transported to the hospital where he later died. He leaves behind a wife and a young son. Jonathan Diller. Just like Laken Riley, don't forget this man's name. There's a lot more to be said about Jonathan Diller. Now, fast forward to the funeral. There's a lot to talk about here. Fast forward to the funeral. The governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, decided to attend Officer Diller's funeral.
I heard about that.
It didn't go so well for her.
No,
you heard about that?
Well, I heard she was asked to leave in so many words.
She was disinvited.
Yeah.
Because there are people in New York that are absolutely outraged with Kathy Hochul.
I heard that the police chief had warned her beforehand to not show up, and she did it anyway. So
right, but it didn't go well for her. Yeah, she was turned away, and she was not welcome at the funeral, nor should she have been. These people are lawless. They do not support their local police. That is true of Kathy Hochul. It is true of Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City.
I heard he was asked to leave too.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, but I'm not surprised if she was. He would be as well. And you know what's funny is Eric Adams is a former police officer himself. You would think he would have a little empathy, and you would also think he would know how to handle or at least have a better handle insofar as dealing with crime in New York City.
Perhaps he was a dirty cop.
Well, that's not a stretch. But it's Kathy Hochul who sent the National Guard to New York City to maintain law and order. And I have simply maintained this would not be necessary if Rudy Giuliani was still the mayor, because all you've got to do is let the cops do their job. It's as simple as that. Rudy Giuliani, no matter what you think of him, he was an effective mayor, and he stemmed the tide of crime in New York City during his term as mayor.
Yes, he did.
He would know how to deal with this problem. You can't go to New York City. If you're wanting to go visit New York City right now, I would not advise it. I would advise you go visit any major American city right now. You just can't do it. You can't walk out in public in any major American city, certainly not at nighttime and not even at the daytime. you have a target on your back. Isn't that sad?
It's very sad. This is no longer the country we grew up in, huh?
No, it isn't. Now, what ties in with this tragic story of the murder of Officer Diller is that in this same time frame, within a few days of this event, there was a huge fundraiser for the current occupant of the White House in New York City.
Mm.
And some of you have undoubtedly heard about this. It was a fundraiser for the current occupant of the White House, Joe Biden. It was a $500,000 a plate dinner. They raised over $25 million for the Biden campaign.
Huh.
And of course, and people such as Queen Latifah were there, and some other pop culture stars I've never heard of, and
Lizzo.
Lizzo. I don't know who that is. Don't really want to know who that is.
Right.
I'm not up on pop culture. I got to tell you,
Yeah.
I do know who Queen Latifah is, but that's about it.
But she's from back in the day.
Right. She's been around a minute.
Yep.
And she's really bad with investing her money. I can tell you that much.
Apparently, yeah.
But it was a night for the political superstars, if you will, because at one point during this event, rising up from the stage like a trio of Michael Jacksons was Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, and Barack Hussein Obama. They all rose up together, I guess because they couldn't risk them going upstairs or anything like that.
I thought it looked more like devils coming out of hell.
You're fairly spot on there. So here's Biden, Clinton, and Obama, the stars of the show, all there to raise money for Joe Biden. Now, while this is going on, I want you to contrast this scene with another scene, and that would be the scene of Donald Trump speaking in close proximity to the funeral for Officer Diller. And some of you may have seen this. And Donald Trump was outside at this event speaking about this tragedy and all the tragedies that are happening in America right now.
Yeah.
He had some police officers standing in legion with him, behind him, as you often see. But these were not New York City police officers standing behind Trump. And they weren't New York City police officers because the New York City police officers were forbidden from standing with President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So you might wonder, who were these police officers? These police officers were from nearby Nassau County. They came and stood in the stead of the New York City police officers. So good on them. And one more thing I want to note about this is that a wonderful foundation called Tunnel to Towers apparently has paid off the mortgage of Jonathan Diller's widow. And I believe that Trump donated to that fund. So she, at least, while nothing can,
she won't lose her home.
She won't lose her home. She's lost her husband, and this is just absolutely tragic for her. And now a young son without a father, but they won't have a mortgage anymore. It's a shame that the current occupant of the White House could have not suspended his little star-studded fundraiser.
His little soiree.
Yeah, to go and do an event such as the real president did. And
did he even send his condolences to the widow?
I don't know if he did or not. I don't know if he spoke about it or not.
If he has, I haven't heard about it.
Well, maybe he gave Jonathan Diller the old Laken/Lincoln Riley treatment.
Right.
Apparently, he was too busy making his proclamation about Transgender Visibility Day in lieu of Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Priorities,
Yeah, that is so sad.
If you ask me,
it's disgraceful.
There's not a scenario to me in which Donald Trump looks more presidential than in an event like this, because he is showing support, he is showing empathy, he is showing sympathy, he is flashing the cash for this widow. He is showing compassion at a time where these poor people need some compassion. But what you get from Joe Biden is instead a response that just says it's all about me, and he just completely ignores the grief of these American people who have lost a husband and a father and a son and a brother and a colleague. And Biden he just can't be found. He just does not answer the bell.
None of them do. I mean, at the very least, they could have sent Kamala. At the very least.
They could have.
What else has she got to do except make a jackass of herself?
And cackle.
Yeah, well.
Isn't that what vice presidents do, go to funerals? Or are they just for heads of state?
I guess it's just for heads of state. I don't know.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
This is somewhat rhetorical, somewhat tongue-in-cheek. As you know, the current occupant of the White House, Joe Biden, is running for re-election. He is his party's nominee.
Yeah.
And at this aforementioned fundraiser, 2 former presidents were there to lend their support, help fundraise, endorse, give a hand to, join hands with, and they were all in, Clinton and Obama, they were all in for this re-election campaign effort.
Right.
Here's my question. Where is George W. Bush? Why is George W. Bush not out campaigning with Donald Trump?
George W. Bush is a rhino. He can't stand Trump. He doesn't want Trump to win. I wouldn't have been shocked if I'd have seen him on the stage with those other 3 stooges.
Well, he's more in line with them, certainly.
Well, of course.
But I mean, doesn't I don't know if you would call it protocol or precedence. You might expect.
Well, if Donald Trump was part of the establishment, then Bush and everybody else would be on board, and you and I would not be having this conversation. But because he's not, and everybody hates it's not so much that they hate his guts, but they've got to stop him before he reveals all their secrets. I mean, I truly believe that's what's going on here.
Well, that was kind of a stupid question. I admit that. It was at least rhetorical. I think everybody pretty well knows the answer to it. There ain't anybody in America named Bush that supports anybody named Trump, I'm a-thinking.
No.
I know that in the, I guess it was I think it was the 2016 election, Bush Jr. famously essentially voted present for president of the United States.
Right.
Of course, I don't know what he did when he got into the booth, but it was kind of ballyhooed that he couldn't vote for Hillary, and he certainly wasn't going to vote for Trump. So he just maybe left the presidential box blank. I don't know.
Don't most ballots have that one spot where you can?
None of the above.
No, that is like you're either voting straight Republican ticket or straight Democrat ticket. So
I don't know if that varies by state or not. I just don't know. Or he could have written in somebody else's name. I don't know.
He could have
Mickey Mouse or himself, which is interchangeable there.
Or George.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say that George W. Bush probably has more in common with those three Democrats than he does with Donald Trump.
Definitely.
Who, while both men are in the Republican Party, I'm thinking they could not be further apart in terms of policy
And
matters
ideologies.
and outright ideology.
Yep.
I don't know what would be different if George W. Bush were president right now. I don't think he would have made this transgender proclamation. On the other hand, I don't know. Maybe he would have.
I don't know. It's all sick and disgusting.
It really is. All right. Now, the last couple of days, Thomas Massie, maybe my favorite congressman, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, posted this on Twitter/X. By the way, you can follow me on X. I need to put my call sign or whatever you call it here in the doohickey on the live stream.
Okay.
You can follow Trailer Trash Tim on X. I hadn't got Marina on there yet. I'm working on her. But he tweeted this. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson is planning to attach a Ukraine aid. I'm sorry, let me start over. Mike Johnson is planning to attach Ukraine aid to an Israel aid bill so that Congress will be pressured by AIPAC. AIPAC is an acronym. AIPAC stands for American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
Uh-huh.
Now, you may recall, as soon as Mike Johnson was sworn in as the new Speaker of the House, and he stood in the well of Congress and gave his introductory comments, he didn't get through his first paragraph before he was pledging his allegiance to the nation of Israel. And it was in that moment that I said, here we go again. This ain't an improvement.
Well, almost all Protestants in this country are evangelical Zionist. You know, that is their belief that Israel is God's chosen people, so on and so forth.
Israel the nation.
Yes, Israel the nation. And, whatever. So, of course, they're most of the time they're going to side with them. There's an awful lot of uproar, though, in the colleges and whatnot, and also people marching in the streets being pro-Hamas. I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm pro-Hamas.
No.
I don't think it's any of our business. We ought to just stay out of the whole mess.
I'm pro-American, and that's the point. Yeah. When dealing with Mike Johnson, this is what was so disheartening to me, is to hear him say this when I'm thinking, dude, you are the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States of America. Right. Where the hell is your allegiance? If you want to support Israel so much, why don't you go to Israel and run for office there?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. AIPAC, let me touch on this for a minute.
Okay.
The American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you a not so dirty little secret, and it is simply this. You cannot underestimate the influence of Israel in American politics. You cannot underestimate the influence of AIPAC, this lobby, in the pockets, if you will, and the minds of American politicians. These people, by and large, Democrat and Republican, remember it's a uniparty we have, they have absolutely, for the most part, with rare exceptions, sworn their allegiance to the nation state of Israel. This nation state, which is still involved in an utter, absolute genocide of innocent Gazan civilians. I'm not talking about Hamas. I'm talking about regular people in Gaza that are absolutely being exterminated by the nation state of Israel. And here they come again in the form of AIPAC with their hand out wanting more money. And I've maintained before, Israel is a wealthy nation. They've got plenty of money.
Yeah.
But they're still coming back to us for more money. So why the Israel aid bill? So they don't have to spend their own money?
I guess. Because people Because people in Congress, let's be honest, they fundraise off of this issue because so many of their constituents believe the whole Zionist trope. And it would upset their constituents greatly if their representative did not, break out the pom poms for Israel.
There's a man in Texas by the name of John Hagee. Many of you have heard of him.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is a Protestant pastor who is a Zionist extraordinaire. He has bought into this faulty ideology that the nation state of Israel is representative of God's chosen people. This has never been taught in Christendom ever until
No.
the last 100 years or so.
Well, until John Hagee came along.
Well, no, it predated Hagee, but this ties in with Darby, and it ties in with Schofield. This is where this thought comes from, that the nation state of Israel is somehow God's chosen people. It is not, folks. That is a faulty belief. Christianity has always maintained if there's a chosen people in the world, it's Christians, not this geographical state. I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but I'm telling you, if you understand the history of Christianity, you understand what happened at the time of the crucifixion of Christ. It was the Jews who killed the Savior of the world, and it was the Jews who suffered a crushing defeat by the Roman Empire in 70 AD. Go read the account of this by Josephus. And the Lord Jesus told us this was going to happen. He spoke in parables and what have you, but he told us this is, you're going to be cut off. And it was the Zionists, or not the Zionists, it was the Jews who killed the Lord, folks. And there are repercussions for that. So there is now a new covenant and a new chosen people of God. It's as simple as that. So John Hagee has latched onto this faulty ideology, as many evangelicals have. But I mention him because this is how it works. If you've got somebody who wields some measure of influence, as Hagee does, he is going to influence people in terms of how they vote, because he preaches this stuff. He writes about it. A lot of people read his books. A lot of people listen to him, and they will vote in accord with these bogus beliefs. So he would be applauding what Mike Johnson is doing right now.
Likely.
That's the influence of AIPAC. But Thomas Massey is saying that when Johnson gets back to Congress and he reconvenes, he's going to attach a Ukrainian aid bill to an Israel aid bill. You see how this is played?
Yeah.
I mean, you're certainly not going to say no to sending aid to Israel. And while you're saying yes to sending aid to Israel, we're just going to slide in some more aid for Ukraine. This is insidious. It's wrong. It's unethical. It's immoral. And who's behind it this time? Good old Mike Johnson.
Yeah, I agree.
It just never ends.
As a nation that is teetering on the edge of, bankruptcy, we don't have any business doling out money to anybody.
Where does the money come from? Where does the money come from?
From our great-grandchildren.
Yeah, and or China. But what's missing in this scenario? Anything obvious missing from this scenario? Is there anything that he ought to be talking about when he reconvenes Congress? Is there anything else, if he's going to fund something, that he could allocate funds for?
He could close the stupid border.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I mean our border, not Ukraine's.
Yeah, that's the point. Not a peep about our border. We can deal with Israel's border. We can deal with Ukraine's border. But this American Speaker of the House ain't saying squat about the American border. Mike, dude, clock in. Oh, my goodness. Let me tell you what happened in the last week in New Zealand, down under. There were 3 men who were, I guess, fed up with the appearance of a rainbow crosswalk on the streets of New Zealand. I don't know what town this was in.
Rainbow as in gays and all
Somebody,
that mess.
yeah, somebody had decided to repaint a crosswalk in a street as a rainbow, in a rainbow design. Because the gays have co-opted the rainbow now, of course. And these three unidentified men said, "No bloody way." So they took a can of white paint and they started painting over the rainbow-colored crosswalk.
Right.
And that has not set well with the New Zealand authorities. They don't know, they haven't been able to identify who these three scoundrels are, but they've got a bolo out for them now. Be on the lookout for these three criminals who had the gall to repaint the crosswalk white, like most.
Hey, we need to take back the rainbow one crosswalk at a time. I think everybody should go out there and paint over all this silliness on the streets, because they're trying to force us to applaud the efforts of those folks.
It's not enough for you to accept it.
Yeah, I don't accept it one way or the other, but
I know, but I'm saying
do what you do.
If you did, that's not enough for them.
No, it's not. They want me to go along with their delusions, and they get mad and say it's hate speech if I don't go along with their pretense.
They want you to be as gay about it as they are.
Yeah,
they don't want you to watch the parade. They want you to march in the parade with them.
Right. I don't want to be anywhere near the parade myself.
So anyway, the New Zealand authorities are on the case, and they've got a manhunt out for these three criminals. And if and when they find them, do you know what they're going to be charged with? Any guesses?
It's a hate crime, I'm sure.
Hate crime. Repainting a sidewalk is a hate crime.
Yeah.
It ain't a crime. It's a hate crime. It's hateful for you to repaint a sidewalk.
It's not even a crime.
No.
They ought to be getting a Medal of Honor.
They're just putting it back the way that it was originally.
Right.
Oh my gosh. All right, one more thing. I got to touch on this real quickly. I want to address real quickly the vice presidential sweepstakes for Donald Trump, because this is something that kind of intrigues me. There's a lot of names out there. The latest thing that I have read is something I hope and pray is wrong. I read an article earlier this morning that the Vegas odds, if you will, are currently on Tim Scott.
Tim Scott, right.
I hope that is not true.
I hope so too.
And I won't go over all the names I've mentioned before because I've covered it before, but I'll throw a couple of new names that I heard mentioned the other day by Mark Grubert, and I was impressed especially with one of them, and I had not considered either of them. And Mark Grubert said, how about these people for vice president? One was Devin Nunes of California.
Oh, yeah, I'd like that idea.
Devin Nunes, former congressional representative from California. He is, I think, of Latino heritage, is he not?
Yes, he is.
Good looking, young, articulate. And I believe he is now in charge of Truth Social. Is that correct?
He's the CEO.
He's the CEO of Truth Social. Is that Trump's outfit?
That's Trump's, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Devin Nunes, and all of a sudden I have drawn a blank. I mentioned these to you the other day. Do you remember who else I said?
No. Are you kidding me? Did I have breakfast? I don't even remember that.
Well, I'm not going to pause the video. Oh, who was it? It wasn't a governor. It wasn't a congressman. It was an impressive name, but it wasn't as impressive as Devin Nunes, I think. But Mark said that Nunez, being formerly in Congress, he said this guy knows how the sausage is made, and he would be really good.
Well, he's the one that exposed that the Obama administration was spying on President Trump.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
anyway, I hope it's not Scott. I hope it's not Kristi Noem. I hope it's not Rubio. How do you feel about Tulsi Gabbard?
no,
No?
she's a Democrat. No.
Well, she's not a Democrat. She was a Democrat.
What is she now? Independent?
I'm not sure. I think she's independent. I don't know if she's a Republican now, but she is a Trump supporter, and she has come around in many ways. I saw a recent interview Tucker Carlson did with her, and I was really impressed. I think she might be all right.
No.
No? You're still not convinced?
No.
Well, you people down in the comments that are favoring Tulsi Gabbard, you're going to have to work on Marina, I guess.
No. I'm not known for changing my mind.
No, I can vouch for that. Well, I'm drawing a blank with the other name. I'll tell you what, I'll think of it and I'll put it down in the comments. Anyway, There you have it. Hey, listen, everybody, give us your comments down below on what we talked about today. That would be fantastic. Give us the old thumbs up on the video if you would. That would be tremendous. And subscribe to the old Triple T channel if you have not. And come and join us. So thanks a lot for being here. We appreciate it.
And buy Tim a coffee and buy Marina a tea.
Yeah, we drink lots of coffee. So you can help us out with that down below. This is Trailer Trash Tim. Thank you all for joining us. And you say?
Oh, bye, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you soon.